All right, I have an extremely important announcement. It's almost monumental for this podcast. It's week 10 coming up. It's officially November, and we now have MACtion. MACtion is back. Last Tuesday and Wednesday night, we had no sports. No sports. First time since July 22nd that there was no major sports on at night. The MAC is here to save us. 6-game conference only schedule. The first 3 games will be played on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. The final 3 games for each team will be played on Saturdays. But don't worry, because those first 3 games will get us to college basketball, and then we will have college basketball on Tuesday or Wednesday. So the MAC is here to ensure that you don't have to go pick apples on Tuesday or go to a haunted house or whatever people do on Tuesday nights. The MAC is here. It's back on Wednesday night. All 12 teams will play on Wednesday night. I have a MAC manifesto that I'm working on. I think I've the end of Buffalo to finish. It'll be out by the time you're listening to this. I think 9,000 words dug into these teams to the point where you wouldn't believe. I am excited. I refuse to lose money on the MAC this year. Why? Hopefully won't be betting on Akron, but look. I have a new mask. Akron undefeated. Akron is still undefeated. All right, let's
to barf in when they go 1-10 against the spread again.
They can't go 1-10. They only play 6 games. All right, so they went 0-2. I think they went 1-11. The first team ever to start 0-10. So let's get to the MAC. We won't go extremely deep. We're going to spend some of our Thursday night podcast. I have my manifesto out. Like, if you want to know about the MAC, read it. I go into like the centers and the backup centers. Colin has his conference preview that's going to be out, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. Here are the games. Kent State. We'll go through them all quickly. Kent State's a 6.5-point favorite at home against Eastern Michigan. All right, Kent State, we know last year, dead in the water, a miraculous comeback against Buffalo. They weren't going to be bowl eligible. They have an FBS fourth quarter 21-point comeback, win that game, win out, go to a bowl, win the bowl. And all of a sudden, Sean Lewis has his team back and this program back. Dustin Crum, quarterback, comes back. A legit NFL prospect, that quarterback, by the way. You look at a lot of the advanced metrics, he was just behind Tua and Trevor Lawrence in turnover-worthy throws, adjusted completion percentage, legitimate quarterback. He's back. Defense still has question marks. They want to go fast. It's the flash fast offense, blah, blah, blah. Eastern Michigan, on the other hand, they lose Mike Glass. It was everything for that offense. Their defense was terrible. They couldn't really run it, and it wasn't an explosive offense, but it was just Glass just down the field. Efficient pass. He's gone now. Thoughts on Kent State laying 6.5 at BetMGM over under 62.5?
Yeah, this is a number that I projected at 5, and the number sitting here Sunday night is at 6. So it's probably about spot on. I wish it was a little bit lower, but it opened at 6. It's probably never going to come back down. All the early money is on Kent. I expect it to really probably be an avalanche of Kent money, especially when you look at the fact that, Eastern Michigan is on both sides of the ball, 40% returning production on the offensive side, 49% on the defensive side. Listen, I mean, both these teams finished top 26. Actually, they finished 25th and 26th in overall success rate on offense. The difference between these two teams is Crum comes back for Kent State, and he has all of his weapons back. 68% of the offense is back for Kent State. Neither of these teams can play a lick of defense at all. But Kent State is the one that should have more continuity with the offense, and that's the team that I would want to back here. I don't expect to see anything from either of these defenses. Hard to really kind of gauge a total, but I mean, really 63.5 coming out of the gate. We've noticed that some of these college football teams have extremely They're rusty. The offenses are rusty and the defenses are rusty. So you don't know if that's going to turn into scoop and scores, pick sixes. I would be a little weary of taking unders again unless we get some incremental weather, which is not going to happen here. We're looking at 50 degrees, about 10-mile-an-hour winds, no precip whatsoever. So I think the number is right now at 6. I'd feel more comfortable if it was around my number of 5, but I expect this to be nothing but Kent money in the market.
Yeah, Glass did so much for them. The backup who's going to start is Preston Hutchinson. If you're an Eastern Michigan fan, Chris Creighton is turning that program around. Preston Hutchinson started one game against Western Michigan last year. He went 31 of 36 for 357 yards. So, if he's going to do that all the time, Eastern Michigan will be okay. But the defense was bad, and then you lose, a first-team All-MAC safety in Calhoun, most starts in the MU history. A second-team All-MAC hybrid safety linebacker in Brody Hoying. Your third-team All-MAC inside linebacker, Kobe Beltran. A third-team All-MAC corner in Kevin McGill with 40 starts. He signed with the Chargers this summer. Wasn't a defense that was good. And, last year they lost Max Crosby, who's now starting for the Raiders, and Jeremiah Harris, who got a shot with the Giants this past summer. So the defense has lost a lot, and it wasn't good last year. It'll come down to probably Hutchinson. He has to be special like he was in Western Michigan. I don't know if he can trust that. All right, moving on. Yeah.
I was going to say, another problem with Eastern Michigan is that they ranked in the top 30 on offense and sack rate. Like, they were very well protected. Glass was very well protected, and all of that's gone. Like we don't have any protection of the quarterback, and we have a new quarterback. It's a really – Creighton's going to have his best coaching job of his life if he can get this team to get a couple wins this year.
Yeah, I like Williams, the receiver, and Drummond. They did lose Arthur Jackson, who was their leading receiver. Creighton will take over play calling, their head coach, by the way, for the first time. They lost their offensive coordinator. Much more.
By the way,
manifesto.
By the way, let me say, I think it's amazing that no coach in this entire conference was fired. Every single coach returns. Every single coordinator returns, with the exception of Toledo, where both coordinators are out the door. But other than that, completely stable. Like, the continuity from the coaching perspective and coordinator perspective, every single program, unbelievable.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan did lose their OC, but Creighton will take over play calling, so you don't expect much change there. All right, second game. Oh boy, Western Michigan at BetMGM minus 16.5, over under 55.5 at Akron. At Akron, 6 p.m. Eastern. Akron was 0-12 last year, has lost 17 straight games. All right, Western Michigan, to give you a quick synopsis, they had the offensive and defensive players of the year last year. Both. They had Bellamy, their running back, who ran for right around 1,500 yards last year. They also had a quarterback who threw for 3,000 yards in John Wassink. They're both gone. Their defensive player of the year in the MAC last year, Trayshawn Howard, linebacker, he's back. Their pass rush is legit. One of the best pass rushers in the MAC. That'll still be there. They lost some pieces on defense on the back end, but it's going to be a great elite for MAC standards pass rush. The offense was awesome last year, but you had Wassink and you had Bellamy. Two great players that you have to now replace. So Western Michigan, look, they're going to have a good pass rush. Their offensive line is massive. It's one of the strengths of the offense, even though, you had Wassink and you had Bellamy. Great quarterback, great running back, both gone. But the offensive line is huge. One of the reasons for their success last year. The offensive line this year will still be very good and very big. I think all 5 starters will be upperclassmen who all weigh 295 pounds or greater. The defense will still have an elite pass rush. Look, it's going to be a much more inexperienced team. They were the most experienced team in the country going into last year. So what do you expect going into this year? Lose a lot of seniors. That's what they did. But when you're talking about a matchup with Akron, one of the things you have to first – Akron's a dumpster fire. They couldn't run the ball. The offensive line was terrible. There's just not much you can say. Their 2 best defenders are gone. And the defense wasn't that bad relative to the offense, but their 2 leading tacklers are gone. This team is so young. It's still a rebuild. They're relying on a lot of JUCO transfers. But the scariest thing about this is the weakness on Akron is their offensive. When I say weakness, I mean relatively speaking to the rest of the roster. You do have Cato Nelson, an experienced quarterback, but the offensive line is so bad, and you're playing against a really good still pass rush. And the defensive line is undersized, and you're playing against 300-pound offensive linemen across the board. The advantage in the trenches for Western Michigan here is massive. I do think Akron could be a little better, but again, there's a lot of unknown here with what they're relying on with new pieces. Look, I would love to say we got to back the Zips, but I don't think we can here because of the disadvantages in the trenches. Thoughts?
We will be backing the Zips. I will be backing the Zips.
Oh boy!
I actually share a little bit of the tickets. There was an opener of 17 somewhere today. Got in on that, but not everybody had opportunity to get that, so I didn't put it out on the app. But I believe Western Michigan will take tons of money, and this will have steam. I will probably wait until Wednesday night around 4 o'clock. What is this game? 5 o'clock Central Time. I'll probably wait until 4 o'clock when that steam comes in, and we're staring at 17.5, 18, whatever. I think this number is completely inflated. I mean, you take in I know, listen, 89% of Akron's offense is coming back, but they rank 130th, dead last and everything. And that is including UMass's stats. Do you want, I can name off one stat where Akron did not rank in the bottom 10, and that was power success rate on offense. Their offense is legitimately one of the worst things FBS football has seen. I'm including UMass in all these conversations. Akron's really bad, but they do return almost every single player, so experience has to count for something. The defense wasn't much better. They're a little bit better against the pass. Really, this is a continuity play, and it's evaluating the stock market. Listen, when Apple's stock is hanging around at 105 and it gets up to 120, you sell off a little bit because it's going to dip. And if it dips,
I said this all last year.
You buy it. I'm telling you right now, Akron should not be over 17.5. The buy point for me is 17.5, and it gets to 17.5. It keeps moving. I'll buy it. Listen, there's just Akron's at home. They return a whole bunch of pieces. Western Michigan, on the other hand, we're talking, 41% of their offense is back and 50% of their defense is back. That's not a whole lot. Their defense really wasn't that great. When you look at it from a passing success rate, they were 103rd in passing success rate on D. They were 109 in line yards on D. They can be pushed around. And I understand Akron's small, and I'm no fan of Tom Arth, but there comes a point where a stock becomes a buy. There comes a point where Akron is a buy. So it's 17.5 is the number for me.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying with Western Michigan. LB will be their starting quarterback. He started 5 times before. Doesn't really have as much mobility or downfield. He's not as big of a downfield threat as Wassink, or obviously doesn't have as much experience. But yeah, you can run it on Western Michigan. Akron can't run the ball. Can't get a yard. And Western Michigan, what they do is they are elite pass rushers, and they are 300 pounds across the board on the offensive line. I get what you're saying. I just don't know how. I don't know. We'll see. Moving on. Northern Illinois plus 10.5 at BetMGM at home against Buffalo. Buffalo's a machine, preseason favorite of the MAC to win. Not my pick. I do pick them to win their division and get there. When you talk Buffalo, you have to talk about their running game. Yes, Van Treese is back. He has his top receiver back in Nunn, who's a pretty significant deep threat. But it all starts with the running game of Buffalo, and specifically Jarrett Patterson, who went wild. 1 yard under 1,800 yards on the season. By any metric, he was a top 5 running back last year, and they started feeding him the ball in the second half of last year, and that's when their offense really picked up. They really should have finished the year 7-0, if not for the miracle Kent State comeback, and they were just crushing teams in the MAC. Had a blowout win in the bowl game. Patterson comes back, and people forget about Marks, the backup running back, who had over 1,000 yards rushing. The problem is the offensive line. Right, so the passing offense is outside the top 100 in yards per attempt. Not great. Did what it needed to do. Van Treese is a little mobile. But the offensive line was absolutely spectacular. Top 30 in line yards, number 1 in sack rate. Just no matter what they needed to do. They lose 3 of their 5 starters, specifically 2 of their best in Noseworthy and Sierczek. I can never say his name. They do have one of the best tackles in all of college football, and Awosika, who's coming back, but he's moving from right tackle to left tackle, but he is a monster, NFL prospect for days, one of the best offensive linemen in college football. But they lost 3 of their starters, and that basically was their offense. It was Patterson and this just dominant offensive line. So can the offensive line be that dominant? The defense was very good, top 30 in success rate. They will have a phenomenal pass rush with Riggins and Kuntz. They lost Mack, but still just players all over the place. Good secondary too. Should be a really good defense. The special teams are dreadful. They also should be a little extra salty for this opener because the last time they faced Northern Illinois was in 2018 in the MAC championship when Northern Illinois had a crazy comeback to win by 1. So maybe that weighs on Buffalo's mind here. Northern Illinois just lost everything. They have an experienced quarterback in Ross Bowers, but Harbison transferred. Then they expected running back. Nettles, he's not on the depth chart. They lost Brinkman, their best tight end. The offensive line, the defensive front, so many transfers. 39% of returning production on offense. It's a rough situation for an unprecedented spring and summer for all the pieces that this defense is trying to replace. Yeah, they get Pugh and DeVoe back at linebacker. That's the strength of the defense. But what they're replacing up front and then the offensive line was so bad that it's just a lot of really scary things to consider with Northern Illinois. Buffalo is legit. This line, I think, opened at 8. It's up to 10.5. Thoughts?
I think I was while you were talking, I was going to bet Buffalo. This is a number that I think should be a little bit higher. I actually kind of power rated closer to 2 touchdowns. My hesitation was the fact that this number had floated up to 10 and had come back down just a little bit. So I'm willing to wait and see if we get a better number, maybe something below a 9 during the week. I'm kind of interested to see what people's take on this is because I am not a Northern Illinois believer whatsoever. Now you mentioned that they lose a whole ton in returning production. I think the worst offensive returning production in all of the league. And that is in combination with their head coach, Thomas Hammock, who's going into his second year as the head coach. It wasn't really a very impressive season from the new head coach for his first time. Offensively, they were 119th in line yards, outside the top 100 and tons of things. You would think a guy that's been coaching running backs for the Ravens. He was a running back coach at Minnesota, running back coach for Northern Illinois in 2005. No play calling experience whatsoever. You think they'd be better at running the ball. They were 109th in the country running the ball. They were 119th in line yards. They were 105th.
Offensive line, awful.
Offensive line was terrible. They were 105th in havoc allowed. And I know that we're talking about what Buffalo has lost on the offensive line, but from a defensive perspective with Northern Illinois, they were 109th in sack rate. They're not getting to the quarterback either. And the thing that gets me about the Northern Illinois defense last year, they were 127th in preventing explosive rushing attacks. They were one of the worst in the nation. I don't like the direction of this Northern Illinois program. I do love the direction of Buffalo. They have one of the best coaches. You want to talk about somebody that is able to make a gourmet meal out of dog food, it's Lance Leopold. So, they consistently have some terrible recruiting classes, and he turns them into one of the best teams in the MAC. My belief is in the coaching staff of Buffalo. I know there's some replacements to certain players. I have this power rated in double digits. I would like to get this. Probably going to bet it tonight. We'll see where it's at Sunday morning. I'd like to get the best number possible, but this number should close in the double digits.
Yeah, I mean, NIU 4-3 base. They lost 2 of their best defensive linemen that transferred to Iowa. Their offensive lineman is dreadful. Their best offensive lineman, a 4-year starter, is gone. He just signed with the Patriots practice squad actually this week. It's rough. I mean, you got Ross Bowers, and then who's running? I don't know who the running back is. They lost their best tight end. It's a mess at NIU. This is probably my favorite bet of the week. Ball State plus 3.5 at Miami of Ohio. Over under 55 at BetMGM. I love this Ball State team. This is my pick to win the MAC. I know they've never won a MAC championship. Ball State fans in Muncie are going to say, well, don't give us hope. There was one tweeting him the other day. I love this team. It's just this offense is electric. It was electric. Last year was the best offense in the MAC. Very well balanced, too. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. I love the offense. The question last year was the defense. Wasn't great. But 12 of the top 15 tacklers come back. And I think there's going to be a significant improvement, mainly because I think in their 3-4 defense, they might have the 2 best corners in the entire conference in Phillips and Uzodinma. I mean, Phillips, by the way, is one of the best pure cover corners in college football, not just the MAC over the past 2 years. You look at the advanced metrics, this guy's a lockdown corner. So I think there's enormous regression on the defensive side coming for this Ball State team. They lost a bunch of close games in conference last year. They were 5-7. 3 of their losses in conference came by a combined 8 points. They were right there. The offense will still be elite. They bring back so much. And I think the defense with those 2 corners, it's on the upswing. This is a team where I think the bounces go their way. Speaking of which, the negative regression team I've highlighted is Miami of Ohio. This team that won the MAC last year, they were 110th in most offensive metrics. Their defense was good. They lose a lot of key pieces on the defensive end. They bring their whole offense back, including Gabbert, the MAC freshman of the year last year, but the offense was very inefficient. The offensive line was awful. But, yeah, Miami of Ohio, they go 5-0 one-possession games last year. This is a team under Chuck Martin that lost every one-possession game for 5 years. Then they go 5-0 last year. Why did they go 5-0, Colin? Special teams, right? They won the field position battle. They had the best kicker who was starting for the Rams before last week. They had a great punter. They lose their holder. They had a top 30, top 25 special teams unit. That's how they would win all these games. Well, they have to replace all of that. Their offense, maybe it gets better. Gabbert, his weapons come back. His running backs come back, although Fester's hurt, a little banged up. They're 4-2-5 defense. They lose their linebacker, their nickel guy, and the secondary should be pretty good. They get after the quarterback, but you can run on this team. I just think, look, Ball State is the team that I love. Positive regression. Miami of Ohio has negative regression coming to them. I'm all about this Ball State team. I'm getting 3.5 here all day. My pick to win the MAC. I like the Cardinals here. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you really broke Ball State down really well. I'm not sure there's much I can add. I love Mike New. I've loved Ball State for years. The problem they've always had is staying healthy. They've always had a fantastic offense, and that's, a part of the coaching. They need to stay healthy again here. So, this is a team that I want to back. 68% of the offense is coming back. They rank 32nd overall in success rate. 81% of the defense is coming back, and I know they're 99th in success rate. But actually, that's pretty good in the MAC. 99th in success rate. You're beating a lot of other teams out there. Plitt at quarterback, everything. I power rate this game at 2.5. My only worry is the luck box Miami of Ohio. This one possession record that Chuck Martin has, like for 4 years straight, he lost every single thing, and now for 2 years straight, he wins every single game. It's in one possession. So here we go again. And
the reason that you win those games, a lot of it is the special teams. When you have a great kicker, you have a great punter, and you're winning those field position battles, they have to replace even the holder, even their returners. They replace every single key piece of their special teams. That's big.
Right. So here we go. Another dance with Chuck Martin and his special teams. But I like Ball State too. I would suggest getting it at 3 or above. We'll see how the market plays it this week.
Let's go, baby. I'm excited for Ball State. Can't wait till they might be my AKRON this year. I hope they don't let me down. Luckily, if I get a team wrong in the MAC all year, I can only go 0-6, not 0-12. Since they only play 6 games. Well, 7, the MAC championship. Then a bowl. I guess I can go 0-8 on Ball State this year. All right. Let's move on to the next game. Ohio, a pick at BetMGM at Central Michigan. Over under 59.5 at BetMGM. Look, there's a lot of unknowns in this game. I don't know if I'll necessarily bet this game, and I've dug into it as deep as you possibly can. The biggest question, the NCAA, I don't know why they haven't granted David Moore his eligibility. He got suspended. So last year, you had Dormandy and Moore starting at quarterback for Central Michigan, who had an incredible turnaround under Jim McElwain. They went from 1-11 to the MAC championship game. Incredible. So McElwain comes, first-time offense coordinator Charlie Fry. They revamped the entire offense. They go from like an RPO basic college offense to a pro style, and the results were tremendous. They doubled their points average. Crazy. But both of their quarterbacks maybe aren't going to be back because Dormandy graduated, and Moore, who's suspended for a banned substance, who was supposed to be eligible by October 8th, but that was including games that they were already supposed to play. So they filed an appeal, and there's still no word. So if he can't go, which it looks like he can't, I don't know. is you're going to have a freshman going at receipt. You're going to have a freshman.
A true freshman.
True freshman at quarterback. And I don't know. They have great receivers, 2 first-team All-MAC receivers in Ja'Cory Sullivan and Pimpleton. Pimpleton's a great returner as well. They had 2 great backs, 2 2,000-yard backs. I think it was Buffalo and Central Michigan, the only teams in the country that had 2,000-yard backs. But they did lose one of those backs. But they still have Lewis back. Ward is gone. But it comes down to the quarterback, David Moore. If he can't go, then all of a sudden you have a freshman. The defense, extremely stout against the run. I mean, extremely. They can defend the run. 11th in line yards, number 1 in FBS and stuff rate. So most of the defensive line contributors back. Michigan transfer decided to opt out. They have a Texas A&M transfer coming in. Diallo should help. They led the nation in tackles for loss percentage on run plays. So this is a team that very stout up front. But the secondary is the biggest question of this entire team because they revamped it all. The entire thing is brand new. They had a freshman who looked great, and McKinney Harper. He got arrested, then kicked off the team. Governor transferred. Braswell transferred. So you have Bracey there, who started 6 games at corner last year. They moved him to running back because they lost Ward. They have no depth behind Lewis. So they have a brand new secondary. Now, what it is it's Power 5 transfers. You have Edwards from Florida. McElwain recruited him to when he was at Gainesville. You have Bowens from Iowa State. You have McNary, who came from a community college. And as of now, it looks like those are going to be your 3 starting cornerbacks. Talent, yes. Power 5, yes. But it's a brand new secondary. That'll probably make or break this defense. A lot of unknowns. Ultimately, it comes down to the quarterback position. We still don't know much about it. Quick look at Ohio. Again, who's their quarterback? Armani Rogers, your boy from UNLV. Or Rourke, not that Rourke, his younger brother. Rogers more of a runner. Rourke, who did so much for them, who just graduated, his younger brother, more of a thrower. He's trying to come in, and who are they going to go with? It might go with 2 quarterbacks. I don't know. What do you see here?
Yeah, I hear everything you say about Central Michigan and the fact that their defensive line is stout. I mean, number 1 in stuff rate, 14th power success. 11th in line yards. And listen, both of these teams return a whole bunch on defense, 78% for Ohio returning production, Central Michigan, 77%. Central Michigan had a much better defense. The thing that I think we need to focus on is that Ohio is not a passing team. They are not a quick strike, deep strike passing team. Frank Solich prefers, at least during the Nathan Rourke era, we're kind of doing a zone read and we're running the ball and pressuring defensive ends. If you have good defensive ends, you can beat Ohio. I don't think Solich is going to go off of that. I think it's one of the reasons Armani Rogers came to Ohio is because he probably saw what Nathan Rourke was doing with the zone read and said, man, that's perfect for me. I mean, if you look at any Armani Rogers tape from UNLV from his freshman season, a kid can rip some runs off. And I think if he's the one that's a quarterback, then you put the focus on the Central Michigan defensive ends on if they can do anything with this. That being said, if the only way to attack this Central Michigan defense is through the air, that's not Ohio's game. So that would make me want to take Central Michigan. I have the game lined as a pick. Had the Sunday morning projection piece come out on all my lines, and I had this one directly on a pick. Lined opened up at a pick today, so no play for me here. But let's look and see if Armani Rogers is playing. If he's not, if it's Kid Rourke or one of the other quarterbacks that are playing for some reason, then this is a Central Michigan play probably.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio has to replace everything. Hagan at safety. Maybe the defense will be a little better in the second year of the system. My whole thought process, what are we going to get from Central Michigan's freshman quarterback? I don't know. But I do think that the way that you attack or should be able to attack the Central Michigan defense is by throwing it, which would mean that the younger Rourke, who apparently has like a cannon of an arm, he's not as much of a runner. He would be the guy that you would start. But if they start Rogers, he's very inaccurate, but a hell of a runner. But that's not how you attack Central Michigan. So a lot of questions. We'll have a lot of stuff up on this game. The last game, Toledo minus 19.5 at home against Bowling Green at BetMGM. I won't go too much into this game because we'll have a lot up on it. I will say Bowling Green, 62% of their roster is freshmen. I mean, this is a complete rebuild for a team that was absolutely dreadful in every phase of the game. I think Toledo should be a little better. They have a three-way quarterback competition going on. Still haven't named who that starter will be. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Eli Peters, I thought was the one that was going to get the job. I know he hasn't been named.
He should
yet.
be. He should.
Yeah, he's the one with the most experience. But we're talking Bowling Green, top to bottom. This is probably the worst team, worst team in the conference. 117th in success rate on offense, 120th in success rate on defense last year, and returning production. Both sides of the ball are below 50%. Bowling Green definitely is in the running for the worst team in the MAC this year. And Toledo, we got some change in the coordinator position. I don't think Jason Candle really liked what was going on the defensive side of the ball. We have co-defensive coordinators now. They return over 70% of their offense and defense. They need to improve on the defensive side of the ball. I power rate the game at 19, and it came out at 19. So there's no value so far in this game. But I will say this. It is the MAC, and people tend to steam numbers on favorites leading up. So if you like all these teams that we've talked about that are favorites going up against really bad teams, like if you like Toledo against Bowling Green, I would probably get it early. There's not going to be a lot of Bowling Green steam come on Wednesday. If you like Western Michigan against Akron and you want to take Akron, you might want to wait. Western Michigan is going to be the one to take all the money. These MAC games have, if you're new to this and you haven't bet the MAC before, this is some of the wildest point spread movement and total point spread movement you will ever see in your entire life. We're talking $1,000 bet can send a total from 52 to 62. Be patient, trust your numbers, realize when a stock is too high and realize when a stock is too low. But generally, favorites seem to take in a ton of money leading up to kick the first couple of, the few hours left before we start play.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say on the MAC is I think more so than other conferences, the lack of preparation, shortened spring, shortened summer, is going to hurt them more so than other conferences, because this is a conference where you don't have a lot of depth, right? Like your second and third string guys, they're not highly recruited. You have a lot more walk-on, so player development time, reps is very important. So it's going to hurt these teams that are bringing like nothing. Bowling Green is 65% freshmen on the roster. I mean, and the Toledo run game should be dynamic again. I mean, there's no question about it. They should be able to run all over Bowling Green. You bring back, I mean, they might have, arguably, besides Buffalo, I guess, the best running back tandem in the conference. You have Seymour coming back and Koback, and then you have an offensive line that just mauled people in conference in run blocking. What were they, top 15 in almost every advanced run blocking metric. Pass blocking, not great, but they should be able to move the ball in Bowling Green. And something to keep in mind, Toledo, very disappointing year last year. They were picked to win the MAC West in the preseason poll for a reason. They went 6-6 last year. That was the first time, I believe, don't quote me this, in 9 years that they didn't have a winning season. And it was the first time in 9 years that they didn't beat Bowling Green. Bowling Green shockingly upset them as 28-35 point underdogs? I forget what the spread was. It was a crazy upset. So if you think Toledo is back after a disappointing year, after an embarrassing loss to a team that's 20 miles south of them, and they want to take out their anger and keep their foot on the gas, could be the spot. All right, we'll have much more on the MAC all throughout the week. We have Election Day on Tuesday. We have Monday Night Football we're going to get to in a second. Not much else going on besides the MAC on Wednesday. We're going to fill up the app and actionnetwork.com with MAC content. Make sure you check it out. And we'll all be on Twitter sweating MACtion together on Wednesday night. Should be fun.